This is Level Up Life After 40 with Shai P.
and Amy E., helping women over 40 to grow, reinvent, and stop settling for just getting by.
Because your best chapter might just be ahead. Thanks for tuning in to another fantastic episode of Level Up Life After 40 with Shai P. and Amy E. And we're in the month of reinvention, and we're going to be talking a little bit about just why people don't reinvent themselves, or just shifting your mindset, and just a couple of little different things that might help you kind of start out the process a little bit easier. And we had done this episode, or similar episode, I would say, when we did Keeping It Together After 40, and it was Prosecco Your Perspective. And we were going to kind of go under that same vein. And I had a little thing like, sometimes life looks like a lager, but you can do some things to make it a little more Prosecco. There's a couple little different facets, and I think, as usual, Amy has some different points than I had. So once again, you're going to get a good gamut of material. So we're going to just dive right in and get started. And actually, that's a lie. Just remember, follow us on the socials on Instagram and Facebook, Level Up Life After 40. All right, now we'll dive in. So for me, Amy, and I think you would probably agree, and I think most anybody would agree, in order for someone to really kind of reinvent themselves or rebrand, or to kind of move on to something new and different, a lot of times you have to change your mindset about things. And that's often the hardest thing for people to do. That's always the thing that's going to hold you back. It's going to be some kind of thought process, typically, that's going to impede you from making a change. Whether it's negative self-talk, or like we were talking earlier, I make all these self-deprecating jokes and stuff like that. And your body and your brain will believe the things that you say out loud. So what's your favorite phrase, Amy?
Thoughts are things.
There you go. So
True.
yeah. And we will talk about changing your mind about situations, but the first place that you need to start is changing your mind about yourself. Everybody has some kind of little negative thing that they probably tell themselves, or why we can't do things, or something like that. So there's th- changing your brain has got to be the very first step. And we'll kind of talk about that when we talk about some of the different things that you can do to take that step towards reinvention.
Well, I think one of the things we should mention too is the hardest part is, why can't we change?
Hmm.
Why do we find ourselves getting stuck in a rut? Why is change? And I can think of a lot of reasons, but I'm guilty of it myself. I'm a creature of habit. I love routine. I
Hmm.
wake up in the morning, I go to the gym at the same time every day. I come home, I let the dogs out, I work a little bit, I let the dogs out again, I work some more. All of a sudden, it's 4 o'clock. I might be preparing for our Level Up Life podcast. Next thing you know, it's dinner time. I've gone to bed, and I woke up with all these grandiose ideas of all these things that I was going to do different, and that were going to ways that I was going to level up my life today. And I found at the end of the day, I accomplished none of them. And so why is change so hard? And I
Hmm.
think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we get stuck in routine,
Hmm.
which routine turns into a rut, and that rut turns into same old, and then same old becomes complacency,
Hmm.
and then we just end up settling.
Yeah. And some people, their lives will be good. So it's like, well, it's good enough. And it's basically what the neighbors are doing. So I'm fine. Like, why would I change? Everything's fine. Mm. But I think the purpose of even just the podcast and some of the stuff that we've done in our lives is that it's not really fine, and you get a little bored. But the routine, I'm gonna call it a routine,
Mm.
really can affect you. And I think also, like, that mindset of it's fine, it's what everyone else does, is also one of those little mindset shifts that could potentially need to be affected. But you're right with the routine. So what kind of things can people do? Like for you, what's something that you could do that you could have broken up today?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was trying to think of ways of why we struggle with change so much. And once again, going back to that, because we get kind of stuck in that routine.
Mhm.
And it's because we aren't doing things to stimulate our brain in a different way. Your mind is a muscle,
Mm.
right? Just like anything, you don't use it, you lose it. That's why do they tell so many older people to continue to do crossword puzzles or words with friends? Because you're constantly trying to stimulate your brain. I think the same goes when you're trying to level up your life.
Mhm.
When you are open to change and you start doing different things, your mind is going to be open to different opportunities. Things that a door that might have opened that when you were in your routine, you might not have noticed. But now, because I love that word, you can tell. But now, because you are open to change, your mind, you're constantly stimulating your mind to do change worthy things. You might notice those opportunities that otherwise would have slipped past you.
Mhm.
One of the ways that I think is a great idea is try to brush your teeth with the other hand.
Mm.
It sounds simple, but I'm right-handed, and when I broke my right wrist a couple years ago, I had to do everything left-handed, and let me tell you, it's a lot harder than you think. But on the flip side, it really forced me to have to think about it.
Mhm.
And I know you're like, Amy, why would I want to think about brushing my teeth? But just thinking about that, there's different neurotransmitters in our brains that started firing off. And now it really made me think about a lot of different processes in my life.
Mhm.
Why do I do things the same way every day? Why do I drink the same coffee every day? Why do I take the same route to work every day?
Mhm. Well, and you mentioned like your neurons and things, you do have neural pathways and they can get very deep. So if you're one of those people that has a negative thought process or just those habits, it's easier for your brain to take that thought process. So it really is an active exercise, if you will, since we're talking about your brain being a muscle, it really is an active exercise to kind of capture those thoughts, stop them, and start carving a new neural pathway. So I think that's the other reason why it's hard for people to change. It's because not only is their physical body used to that routine, but their brain is. And the brain says, "Well, you've got all these pathways, so this is where I'm firing because it's the easiest thing for me." So you really have to be conscientious. And I think even just those small steps where you're like, "Okay, I'm going to brush my teeth with my other hand. What's something different I could do tomorrow?" And maybe you should start trying to do some bigger and some different things. I wrote some notes while you were talking. Two things I kinda wanna bring up. Screens are horrible, and I we already know I watch TV, and it's interesting because I had a coaching session this morning, but and so I was thinking about my TV usage and stuff, and they have shown that your brain activity when you're watching TV is less than when you're sleeping. So you are almost, like, literally brain dead when you watch TV. I don't know if there's exceptions, like, if you're watching a mystery and you're trying to figure stuff out or whatever, but they've also started making TV shows, like, a little bit dumber because people are on their phones and they're scrolling and stuff while they're watching TV. So I think that brain capacity is probably even lower now. So if you are really actually watching TV, but screens, I would get rid of screens because I know you were talking about like people doing mind puzzles and stuff like that. If your habit and your escape is to do puzzles and things on your phone, I wouldn't do that. Like, be like, "Oh, well, I play Royal Kingdom every day. That's great for my brain." It's addictive to your brain, I know that. I used to play solitaire all the time. I loved playing solitaire on the computer. Spider Solitaire was my favorite. Maybe deal those cards by hand. Get an actual book for word puzzles or crosswords or whatever it is, and just put the phone down. So if you are gonna do something that's a little more brain engaging, break out the Scrabble board. Do something where you're even in a relationship and participating in an activity. So screens I would get rid of. And the one thing, because you talked about your routine, working out every day, that's probably the best thing you can do for your brain. Exercise is the best thing you can do for your body. And I think one of the things too, because you walk your dogs twice a day, you don't listen to anything when you walk. You're just out there with the Amy thoughts and probably yelling at the dogs. But that gives you a good bit of time for your brain to process stuff. So the exercise is huge. So if you can take like a mental health walk, try to go without your phone. Now I carry my phone with me in case I see something interesting I want to take a photo of, but I'm not on my phone. I'm not listening to anything. I'm just out walking. and that's usually when I'm coming up with some good ideas and having the chat in my head. But exercise, you're gonna find, is gonna give you more energy to try to get out of that routine, and you can start small. You can start small. Start with a 10-minute walk.
Mhm.
You'll find that as you keep doing that, you're just gonna have more energy and you're gonna have a little more, I don't know, will to change, I guess. But you're also gonna find when you're putting down the screens and you're active, that your brain is going to engage and you're gonna feel like, "Oh, look at that. There is some life out here," or "Look what I can do." Anyway, I got off on a tangent, but I did not wanna let screens and exercise pass us by. I'm gonna keep talking. Sorry. Because I have started taking walks again, and it's only been 5 days. I've already noticed a difference, and these aren't lengthy walks. They're not even, because sometimes I take my dog and she's horrible to walk, so those aren't even brisk, but I'm out and I'm getting the blood flowing. Go ahead, I apologize.
No, I'm glad you threw it the workout in because people that do work out on a regular basis, there's another place where you can get stuck in a rut or a plateau, as they say, and you feel like, why isn't my body changing? And what's the first thing any professional trainer or anybody in the fitness business will tell you? You need to change up your routine.
Mhm,
Your muscles have memorized the same bicep curls, the same shoulder press that you're doing every day, and they're just going through the motions. Why is it that sometimes when you do just the simplest tweak of doing something at 15 degrees different than how you did the next day, you're like, wow, am I so sore? It's
mhm.
because you are firing different muscles. Same thing with your brain. When you take those mental walks without a phone, without music, without distraction, and you open up your mind to deep breaths, inhales, smelling the grass, listening to the sounds around you. Now your brain is processing things totally different than when you're listening to that 90s dance track.
Yeah, and there is a place for all of that. However, we need to provide your brain, especially if you are wanting to break out of a routine and make a change and work on your mindset. And I know if you're trying to save time, like, because we talked about listening to podcasts and things, and those are all well and good too, but you need to have some quiet time where your brain can just work. Now, to get positive motivational material in your head, if you're driving and you're listening to podcasts and stuff like that, I would strongly encourage it. But I would still say if you can get at least 15 to 30 minutes of walking or some type of physical activity with nothing but you and your brain, I would do it.
Mhm. I think going back to when you talked about mindset too, if you're going to switch things up, grab some positive motivational reading material.
Yeah.
Grab a book from an author that maybe was recommended to you, somebody that, is that you go into the motivational section of the bookshop or the inspirational section of the bookshop, if they even still have those. I think you can even Google it on Amazon or look it up on Amazon. But even just to take 15 to 10 to 15 minutes a day of just reading maybe one chapter
Mhm.
to get yourself into that positive mindset because we taught self-deprivation. We are all guilty. We are our own worst enemy. Somebody could tell me how great I look. Ugh, I hate my hair today. Oh,
Mhm.
that outfit looks so cute on you. Oh, I got it from Target. It's only $15. Like instead of the taking the compliment,
Mhm.
we're so focused on putting ourselves down and it
Well,
becomes a habit.
and I cannot tell you how many times I have heard you say, "I am my own worst critic." Most people are, but there are some people that are probably harder on themselves than others. But I do like the reading of the positive motivational material because that's a good way to change your mindset. And a couple other things, because, we're women of faith. They have shown that reading the Bible, I want to say a minimum of 4 days a week, actually has very positive changes on not only your mind, but on your behavior. And there are many places in the Bible, which I am not prepared with them, but there are many places in the Bible where it talks about mindset, where it talks about, think about all these things that are pure, holy, lovely, and stuff like that. And science has proven that those things are true. So once again, science is miles behind God, but even the Bible talks about how important it is to feed your mind the good stuff
Mhm.
and
Think of
put
the
the good
last
stuff
time you
in there. Oh, go
Think of
ahead,
the
dear.
last time you read a great book, or think of the last time you went to heard a motivational speaker. How many times do you walk out and say, gosh, that was so good. Why don't I do that more?
Mhm.
Like the same thing with after you get a massage and how great you feel. I'm like, oh, this feels so good. Why am I not doing this at least once a month? And then a year and a half goes by and you haven't had a massage again.
Mhm. It's always the way. And so we're going to throw out a bunch of things today. Pick one. Start with one. And we're not done, so keep listening. But honestly, even at the end of the day, with all the other stuff that we're going to talk about, I would probably choose exercise over all the other things. Now, if you want to, because it's not going to take you any extra time to switch hands brushing your teeth, or trying a different kind of coffee, like Amy said, or mixing up your workout. Like if these are things you're already doing in your time, it's not going to take any extra time to change it. So if you're going to add a habit or something different, add the exercise, add the extra walk with no screens. Read the motivational book, like DVR your favorite program, read your motivational book, and then watch your DVR program and skip the commercials because you just saved 15 or 20 minutes where you got to read that book. But s- that would be my place that I would start if anybody cares my opinion, which you should. You're listening, so you must. Anyway.
Yeah. And I think another thing that people struggle with is incorporating fun into their lives.
Yes, that is huge. And this is because I was actually gonna talk I was gonna see if you had anything else about kinda changing mindset about, like, yourself personally. But situations is another one, and I think sometimes it's because we are so busy, and we've talked like, busyness can be a badge of courage. I think having stress sometimes is supposed to be like a badge of courage. It's like, "Oh, I'm just so overwhelmed," and everybody's stressed, and nobody's incorporating fun. And I think you're right, that is so huge. What's some ways you think people could incorporate fun in their lives, Amy?
Well, I think one of the I can't say it's one of the easiest ways, but take an activity that you dislike and try to flip it to find some positive in it, right?
Mm,
Try to find something that you're currently doing that you might not enjoy as much and try to find that silver lining in it. If
mhm,
you absolutely hate doing laundry, I don't know, switch up your laundry detergent or throw another dryer freshener in there and see if you can, I don't know, have somebody mix up some dryer fresh some freshener scents so that you can stimulate your mind to smell a new fragrance. I don't know. I'm throwing things out there, but
like you say, well,
make it
aromatherapy is actually a good idea, but even, like, with laundry, maybe that's where the '90s music comes in.
there you
That could be
go.
something.
Yes.
So, 'cause, like, with me, I don't love cooking. Sometimes I'm in the mood, but I don't usually love cooking, and I know I already talked about TV, but I'll put the TV on. I don't necessarily, like, watch it, but even just the noise of it, it's usually something I'm familiar with, so I don't have to pay 100% attention, but it keeps me entertained enough that I don't realize I've been standing there for 30 minutes chopping vegetables. So that can make it a little more fun there. Because you talked about finding, like, the silver lining, and I think those can be 2 different kind of vessels, if you will.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes we can find the silver lining. So say I didn't have a TV in my kitchen and I'm chopping these vegetables, that's when I can run like, I'm so grateful I have fresh vegetables to eat. I'm so grateful that I'm able to cook. I have this beautiful kitchen. I'm cooking for my husband that I love, or I'm going to enjoy a healthy meal. I'm taking care of myself. So you can find the silver lining that way and say some gratitudes, but you can also say something to make it fun. And I have actually put on 80s dance music when I've cooked, and, you know, it might take twice as long, but I'm having a much better time with it.
I mean, who hasn't danced while doing some vacuuming
You are 100% correct.
or
Yep.
sweeping? Sweeping's a great way. If you got to bust out that Swifter, come on. It can
Yeah,
be your microphone. Make it karaoke.
there you go. Again, might take twice as long, but you're gonna enjoy it more.
It
So
it'll turn that dreaded as and once again, it is introducing change
mhm,
into your routine in a
mhm.
positive way.
Yep,
I
and
think
then
the
that
reason we don't change is because there's so much negative connotation that goes along with change. When people say the word change, what's the fear?
mhm.
Fear of the unknown, fear
Oh,
of failure, fear of what if it coulda, shoulda, wish I would have.
mhm.
We
Well
associate change with bad things rather than associating change with positive things.
I was gonna say Brett and I just changed phone carriers, which we've had the same phone carrier for over 20 years, and then I had to get a new phone, and you know how much I love my old phone. My new phone is almost as good. No, my new phone is fine. It's for the most part, exactly the same. There's a handful of little things that aren't that big of a deal, but I told Brett, I'm like, "I don't like change." He said, "I don't either. Why do you think we've been with them for over 20 years?" But I was also having the negative thought process of I my GPS doesn't work in this neighborhood. I kept losing calls. I wasn't getting my voicemails. So, I mean, like, come on. Like, I didn't want the change, but I also was sitting with a problem that needed to be addressed. So it is kind of a catch 22. You can either choose to just sit and live with it, or you can choose to do some changing.
For the better. I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought up the reason that you made that change of carriers
Yeah.
because you were missing voicemail calls for work. How many times in our lives do we just settle for the negative because we're so afraid of changing to something else?
Mhm. It's true. And the interesting thing too is that what I don't think people realize is that 9 times out of 10, if it doesn't work out, you can change to something else, or sometimes you can even change back. I can go back to that other carrier if I want to. They're still there, they're in business, you know? Now, there are some bells that you can't unring with things, but for the most part, changing careers you can do. Like, I got out of healthcare, I still have my license, I can go back into healthcare if I want to. I was a little nervous when I changed careers, but it's been 10 years, so, it's worked out, but you're right, people are afraid of that change, but I think when you start exercising your brain like you talked about earlier and just making some little things, do some little things that are not that big of a deal. Like, if you go to a restaurant and you always get the same thing, try something else. Maybe you like it, maybe you won't, but you're at least training yourself to do things that are a little bit different. If, you're in a situation of change or you're dealing with something, sometimes you have to ask yourself, "Can I change this?" And if the answer is no, then that's when you wanna try to find your silver lining and add the fun. Or if it's something like, "Yes, but not right now," then you can probably manage to get through. It might stink, but at least you know you have an end in sight where
You
you can
brought
move
it up.
on to something.
You brought it up earlier. Everyone can tolerate or endure a certain amount of pain for short periods of time.
Mhm.
Ladies, let's look at childbirth, right? The prize at the end, I don't want to call a baby a prize, but the reward or the gratification at the end was worth that however many miserable minutes or hours or that you were in labor, right? If it
Mhm.
was so bad, we the human species would be wiped out.
It's true. I almost killed my mom, and I'm a freaking delight now, so
But I kind of want to go back when we talked a little bit.
yeah.
Sometimes when we talked about the fear of change, and a lot of times people say, well, try to change something, and what's the worst that could happen?
Mhm.
But rather than saying what's the worst that could happen, like if I change what's the worst that could happen, how about if I change what's the best that could happen?
It's
Let's
true.
even flip that script in our mindset. We're
Mm.
automatically programmed to go to, oh gosh, okay, so if I do this, what's the worst thing that could happen to me? How about if I change this, what's the best thing that could happen to me? Think about how many more opportunities your mind will be open to when you just flip how you view an outcome.
That is a great, great suggestion, great flip. Love that, and that was not in our original discussion, so I'm so glad you came up with it. That is so true, and on that same kinda note, you're thinking about a change for a reason, typically, and it is because you want that best thing that could potentially come out of it. So I love that. That makes me super happy. That actually was kind of one of my points, like, when you're having these thoughts, like, stop and redirect yourself. I think that's a great redirection.
Mhm.
Like, what is the best thing? And I am gonna go back to the worst thing. What's the worst thing, and can you live with it? And honestly, again, 9 times out of 10, you are going to be able to change again.
There's very few things that are a life sentence.
Exactly.
Like changing phone carriers, you know, getting a different type of automobile, switching car loans, whatever, buying a house.
Yeah. Everything is eventually at some point undoable, and in the meantime, you can formulate a plan to fix it. In fact, I had a client bought in the neighborhood, even when they were under contract, they went and looked at another neighborhood. I kinda found out, like, through the grapevine, and, they wound up closing on the house, and then almost as soon as they closed, they were just like, "I wanna move," and, like, "How soon can I do this?" and blah, blah, blah. So we worked out a plan, and we met one day just to kinda go over things, and they're talking to me, and they're saying all this stuff, telling me about the neighbors and this and that, and I'm like, "It's okay if you're happy and don't want to move." And they were happy. So they knew they had the choice to change again if they wanted to and do something else, but then they grew to enjoy the change. So sometimes that happens as well. Like when I first moved out here, I hated it. I hated it. I was miserable. I hated Brett. I hated my parents for moving me here in the first place. Like I was didn't like it. I go and look at new construction, beautiful homes all the time. I love coming home. I love coming home to I can't see a neighbor next to me. It's a long drive that I don't always love, but the peace that I have when I get home, I've learned to embrace this change. And I
Mhm.
right now, I wouldn't have it any other way. 15 years ago, I would have run over someone to move. So sometimes you will come to embrace the change and realize that it was really good for you.
Mhm.
So I like to stop yourself, redirect, and think about what's the best thing that can happen. And then something else that I thought about that's very beneficial, and I'm not just saying this because I'm going through the course, but when you're going through the coaching training, or at least the program that I'm in, you get coached by your peers. That has helped me exponentially with things. Like even things where I've kind of struggled with just my own mindset about things. A coach will guide you through the process of how to get a good answer for yourself from yourself that can help you make changes. And the amount of change and the amount of progress, the accountability, like all the things it's tailored to you specifically. So Amy and I could have the same goal of learning social media or something like that. The plan for Amy is going to be different than the plan for me, but a coach can help you develop it. So if you have someone that's going to tell you, like a mentorship, like this is what you need to do this, that's all well and good. Mentors definitely have their place, but that may not sit well with me. So that doesn't work well. So maybe find a coach depending on what it is you want to do. And if you know someone, or if you just want to kind of even research or get referrals, but just having a few coaching sessions could maybe even help you get through some hurdles just so you realize like why you want the change, how to get through the change, and honestly, what changes to make. So I think coaching is also a good option for helping you kind of change your brain to get from that routine you're in to maybe wherever it is you want to be in whatever piece of your life that you want to have.
Sometimes just talking to a coach, because a lot of coaches don't give advice. Coaches just ask good questions, and having somebody ask you the questions that will force you to think about things differently,
Hmm.
force that brain to fire off different neurons and neurotransmitters is going to spark something in you to break through that routine
Hmm.
and get you to where you want to be, right? That level up life after 40 that we talk about.
Right. And the other thing too, just on a note with coaching, because there are a lot of different things you can get. Like sometimes people are going to need therapy. Sometimes you just need to chat with your best friend. Sometimes you need a coach. Maybe you do need a mentor, depending on what it is you want to do. There are a lot of different things that you can do. But with a coach, their agenda is not part of the equation. So I could talk about wanting to do a workout with my coach, and I'm going to come up with a completely different plan than if I was talking to Amy about wanting to work out. Because Amy would go, "Well, you just need to go to the gym every day and split your body parts and do this, that, and the other thing." I'm probably not going to do what Amy tells me to do. But if I'm working with a coach, I'm going to come up with something on my own. that suits me in that moment of my life. So that's just a little it's a plug for coaching, but honestly, I've noticed it working, which I think has also shifted my mindset because I went into coaching not knowing, and now I'm like, "Oh, this really does work." So, there are a lot of different things that you can try, and again, how many should they pick, Amy?
1 to 2.
Right.
1 to 2 things that you 1 to 2 little changes that you can make immediately.
Mhm. And I did, like I said, I offered up my opinion and I said exercise should be the first thing, but now that I'm putting my coaching hat back on, you know what? You need to decide what the first thing is that you need to do. It's not up to me. Amy, do you have any parting wisdom?
No, I really enjoyed our conversation today. It forced me to really kind of evaluate the routine that I find myself in. And already I'm thinking of little ways that I can incorporate change into my daily, already busy life that are manageable and measurable. And I'm excited to reinvent as we talk about April, reinvent April. And just everybody remember, you got this. Just a quick reminder, everything we share on this podcast is for inspirational, personal growth, and real life conversation. We're not doctors, therapists, financial advisors, or legal experts. Just two women sharing experiences, lessons, and stories to help you level up your life. Always do what's best for you and seek out qualified professionals when you need specific guidance. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and remember, you got this.